Good evening, Lida. Good evening, Chris and George. Hi again, Arley. Okay, sorry for the delay. I was in a different encounter. So just give me 1 minute. I'm going to share my screen to start our encounter.
Well, I'm the meeting right now, so just try again and maybe pause the program and I'll start again because I'm getting into the meeting.
I'm ready. So welcome everybody to the encounter.
Hello, teacher.
Hello, teacher. Good evening.
Well, most of you were in the other one. Good, and welcome to the ones that I meet for the first time this semester. I want to start this encounter by asking you about the group of people that you have for teaching the lessons that you are required this semester. So I want you to let me know if you are teaching in a school or if you are teaching personalized lessons.
Me, teacher, Liliana.
Liliana, tell me, please.
Well, I think that I'm going to work with kids from 5 to 7 years. I'm not working with the student in my school because I have some problems with the time. The last semester I had to record my students, but the coordinators tell me that I can do it. I have some problems with that, and well, I'm working with those type of the students, little kids. But it's difficult for me because I'm working all the time in the way with the students with us in middle school, so it was difficult because I forgot some rule for him. I need more patience for them, but I'm trying to work with them this semester.
Okay. Well, thank you, Liliana.
Well, teacher.
Okay, teacher, me.
All right, Flor.
Okay, well, in my case, teacher, I have had the opportunity to work in many schools with students of many grades, up to 11 grades. I prefer to work with that kind of teenagers, and I have the opportunity to work with adults sometimes in different institutes. But in this moment, 3 years ago, I have worked in personal lessons. For example, last semester I had to record my classes with them. I didn't have problem with that because they let me record the class. In this moment, I have only personal lessons, not this.
Adults?
No, teacher. I have only sometimes 2 and others 3 students because they are private classes with them.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Flor.
Can I continue?
Yes, sure. Hello, Blanca.
Oh, hey, how are you? Well, I'm going to give private classes to 2 girls. They are teenagers and they are finishing high school. And that's it. I'll do that for this semester.
Okay, thank you, Blanca.
Okay.
My talk?
Yes, Please go ahead.
Excuse me, we are talking about the students that we are going to work with for this class.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. In this moment, we are starting the new year. So in this moment, I don't know which grade I'm going to teach, but the last semester I teach on 7th and 8th grade, and also with kind of reinforcement from 9th grade, 9th and 6th grade. I have 4 grades the last semester, and for all of them we try to solve the textbooks that we have, and also working on grammar and practice and teaching by project tasks, learning issues. I mean,
And
we
when
use
will you start teaching classes?
on September the 3rd.
Okay.
Because the teachers start working from Monday, but with students till that day, till the September the 3rd.
Okay.
And the first week we are not going to give the whole classes. I mean, as academic issues, we are going just to make some kind of induction and presentation and establish arrangement with the students and coordinating things. So grammar content and academic issues, I think we are going to start working from the next week.
Okay, so the second week of September.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Sharon. Arley?
Yes, teacher. I will teach private classes. The age of students would be people from 15 to 40 something years old. And I will have a group about 5 or 6 people.
All right. Beginners, right?
Actually, some of them, but I'm still thinking about it because some of them they have a very good English level, and others they know something. They are not like the beginners, but they need maybe like since A2 and on.
All right. Okay, thank you, Arley. Jorge?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jorge, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm gonna be teaching sixth and seventh graders in the same class, so they're 24 students. The only problem that I have right now is if we have to start recording right now. It's gonna be kind of hard because we are well in the finishing the third term. So next week I have six 6 days of workshop, and then we have exams, and I start the fourth term giving you topics and lessons like September the 8th, something.
Okay, I'm checking the timetable to let you know when you need to video record the first lesson plan.
Okay.
The first lesson.
Teacher, may I?
Yes, please.
Good evening, teacher.
Good evening.
Yes, teacher. This semester, I'm going to continue developing my professional practices at the same institution. It's an elementary school. It's a private one. The name is CODI, Colegio para el Desarrollo Integral. And I'm going to continue teaching in 2 different groups. It's 4th and 5th grade. In the 5th grade, there are 5 students, and in the 4th, there are 7. So in total, there are 12. And they started classes 1 week ago.
Okay, so you already started lessons. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Me, teacher.
Well,
Yes?
Yeah, me, teacher. Lina.
Please, go ahead.
I'm going to work with personalized classes with 4 people. They are between 18 and 32.
How old are they?
Between 17, excuse me, teacher, 17 and 82. They are 2 couples. They are married.
Well, thank you, Lina.
Okay, teacher.
According to the timetable, the first video needs to be uploaded before September 9th. So please have that in mind for your first video.
Oh, that'll give us good time.
So,
yeah, we have plenty of time to upload the first video.
Okay.
I'm Chuck.
I'm sorry. In that case, like, well, I told you it's gonna be kind of difficult. Is it possible to have like an extension, like the 10th or 11th or something, so I can have the lesson on September the 8th and 9th, maybe finish it and upload it as soon as possible?
Yes, that would
wonderful.
be okay in your case.
Okay, thank you. Wonderful.
All right.
Teacher, excuse me, but I have the same issue because
you will start lessons on the second week of September. Yes, Sharon.
Yeah.
So your case in Jorge's case would be you will have like an extra time to upload the video.
Yes, because I'm worried about it.
Okay. Yes, I will give you some extra days.
Or even if you need that kind of certification on the word saying that we are going to start academic content for that way I can
No,
ask
that's
for
okay, Sharon. That's okay. You will have some days more.
Can I participate? Sorry.
Sure.
John.
Yes, John.
Yes. Okay. The last semester we have the opportunity to talk with one foundation. That's a Dreamers Foundation. And this semester continues helping in the like a teacher. That's my students with some beginners, and the average of the age was 9. Yes, our first group is to 7 years to 10 years. This children, and the second group were with teenagers. Maybe that's 12 years to 19 years, more or less. The average students, that's 8 students in each one of the groups.
Okay, that's a good number of students.
Yeah, 8 students, well, average maybe. That's 8 in children and 8 in teenagers, in a young.
Thank you, John. Arley asked how many videos will be recorded during the semester. You will all need to record 3 videos according to the timetable. When the week you don't record the video, you need to upload a lesson plan, or you need to work on a task as the one that you have been working these two weeks. And Joanna, please tell me about your students.
Hello, teacher. I want to work with an extracurriculars in the school. Is with kids about 7 and 10 years old.
Okay. Thank you. Who else? Sandra?
Yes. I have been working in a school for 12 years with preschool children. I am going to work with children of 4 years in grade garden. And the number of the students is 13 children.
Okay. Thank you. Francisco?
I don't say the number of students is about 8 and 9 students. Sorry, with Joanna. Sorry.
Okay, Joan. Thank you.
Hello, teacher.
Hello, Francisco.
Teacher, this semester I'm going to teach in a group between 25 and 13 students. The age are between 14 and 17.
Okay. Thank you, Francisco. Who else?
Me,
My
teacher.
pleasure.
Okay.
Lida, are you going to work with the 7th graders? Yes. Are you going to
Well,
be
yes, I
working?
think I will work with 7th graders, or I don't know if it would be better to work with 9th graders. In that case, well, 7th graders are between 12 and 13 years old, and 9th graders are between 14 and 16 years old. And the average of students is about between 18 to 20 students.
Okay. Thank you, Lida.
Thank you.
Who else?
I'd like to comment on my situation.
Giancarlo, yes.
Yeah, it's I actually work for the language institution that serves a local university here in Barranquilla, and the thing is that courses over there are like they start like by the first or second week every month. So my right now I'll start teaching. I actually gonna start teaching the next week, but this course that I'll start teaching will probably be over by the time I had to send the recording, and I don't know which level I'll be assigned. So the range of courses that we serve goes from low beginner, basic A1 up to B2 courses, and the population is teenagers, young adults, and adults. So it's pretty much about 15 or 16 up to 40. It depends, and it ranges from it could be 12, 15 up to 25 students
So,
per class.
will you start teaching a new course on the 2nd week of September?
Yes, but the thing is that I mean, right now, the one I'll start on Monday with a new one, but this course I already know they're like that's what we call module 4. That's the course was finished in A2, but the one that I'll be having by September, I just don't know right now
Okay.
because our courses are 48 hours, and that's 2 hours a day, so they just last a month. So it's not like most of
Every month,
my partners that they
you
do
have a
the
new
whole
course.
semester. Yeah, everybody gets a new course. They get assigned 3 courses. I'll just get one. So, but the one because I'm the academic coordinator of the institution. So the time that my director allowed me for this process was just 2 hours because I had to take care of the rest of the things that we have in the institution. So I don't know if that's going to be a problem because by the time that I prepare my lesson plan, I would probably don't know yet if I'm preparing a course for. I mean, I'm preparing a lesson for a course that I wouldn't even have by the time. So I'll
Okay.
let you know by then.
What I will check when watching the videos is that all of you try to foster communication using any method that is available for doing that. The university doesn't ask students to use a specific method, that to move from teaching grammar to helping students to communicate. In the task that you had for these 2 weeks, there are 2 methods, or one method and one approach, that are models that any of you who wants to use them are welcome to use them. But I know in other schools they have their own method, inquiry method, for example. So that one also promotes communication, and in that case, if teachers or if any of you use that one for the specific school where you work or the specific place where you work, it will be okay. So again, The idea is to promote communication and promote high order thinking skills, which is a topic that we will study during the encounters. So in your case, Giancarlo, that won't be a problem if you have like two different courses during the semester, because what I will check in the videos is that actually communication is promoted during the lessons. I won't see if your students have a progress, but I will check that. I will check that the sequence of the lesson is coherent and communication is promoted.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, Giancarlo. Who else? Everybody told me already about the course.
Can you hear me?
Tiffany.
Tiffany, okay. And then after Tiffany, we will listen to John Jairo.
Okay. I mostly have Korean students, and they are about 30 years old. Their level is about A2 and B1.
Okay. Thank you, Tiffany. And John Jairo?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, John Jairo, you didn't tell me about your
I already told you about my practices, yes?
Yes,
You already
please.
have
Okay, John, you told me. Elementary, fourth and fifth levels, right?
Yes,
Okay.
two grades for
Yes.
the students.
Okay, thank you. Chris, I haven't heard Chris.
Can you hear me, teacher?
Yes.
Great. Okay, thank you, teacher. I'm going to be teaching. The school where I teach manage around 175 students. They all are in different levels from A1 to B2. Some few in C1. The thing is that those classes are personalized or semi-personalized. We can have up to 4 students in class, but the average is 1 or 2 students. These students take the presential classes almost every 15 days, but I can have classes every day with different students. The classes are 100% conversational, so I'm going to give the students some like guidance, but the purpose of the class is that most of the time the students are talking. So what we evaluate every unit, that is every class, are some competences that they were prepared or they prepare in advance in like other parts of the methodology. And what we do in the class is practicing those competences, but in conversation, right? Like it's like the application of what they previously prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's basically the methodology that I teach with, that is blended method learning. And so the classes are 1 hour each. So if you want per session, I can send you like 2 classes, as I used to do. I remember that I did last opportunity to cover the 2 hours. So I don't know how this could work for the purpose of the class.
What's the name of the language center where you work?
Wall Street English.
Could you repeat?
Wall Street English.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, Chris. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Next, I would like you to please tell me if you have any question about the task that you had for this week and last week. You had to read and watch some videos about 3 methods, 1 sequence, and 1 approach. So I would like any of you who wants to talk about one of those methods or the approach or the sequence, like to summarize a little bit that information, or if you have questions, please ask.
I have difficulties setting the group, so I don't know if I mean I imagine that there should be a place to set the group and everything, but I haven't had the chance to check it, so I don't know if there are still like people needing a group.
Okay. Is there anybody who needs one student more for the group? So you were supposed to create groups of 3 or 4 students. Is there any group who needs one student more?
Teacher, we are working with Jorge, and we are only the two of us. So if anybody wants to join us,
Okay, so it could be.
If it's okay to you,
You could
I
work with
could
chat.
join.
I posted in the forum. So if anybody wants to join us, please write to me in the forum so we can start working as soon as we can.
So Chris and Lena could work with Sharon if you want to.
Will do, teacher. I'm replying the form right now.
Okay.
Arley also needs a group, so you could also start working with some of them, with Sharon or Lena or Chris. All right, so what about the topics that you watched and read? What about grammar translation? What's that method about?
Well, the lesson plan that you asked us to read contain one of those of that method, like grammar. And I think that that method is focused on learning the rules of grammar to learn how to write affirmative sentences. What else? Well, also by using the mother tongue in order to ask students to translate, and during that translation, they need to learn how the rules work to be used into English, and not only in a direct way, but also by using a program to convert first language into a second one, and vice versa. And also that method allows students to practice vocabulary by using isolated words and provide them the rules for putting words together. And one of the characteristics of that method is like speaking and listening skills are not present. So I think there are the main features of that method.
Okay, Blanca, good summary about the method. It is important to mention that some methods like task-based learning, which is focused on communication, could use some of those strategies to teach adults. Why adults? Because adults usually ask for proofs, and sometimes if they are beginners, they don't get the explanation in English, so the teacher needs to use Spanish and examples and to compare the sentence in English with the sentence in Spanish to help beginners, adult beginners, to understand the difference. So it could be used, but as one part or one activity of the lesson, but it could not be used as the only strategy to teach, because it is not focused on communication, and it doesn't take into account contexts, it doesn't take into account other characteristics of language that are necessary to teach. So we can see that currently some strategies that were used to it was in 1800, I think it was the method was used. So at the time it was used, or the strategies that were used at that time are still used currently, but not as the whole part of the lesson, but just as one small activity during, let's say, a 2-hour class.
Teacher, I have a question, or maybe I would like an advice. For example, with kids with about 7 or 10 years old, which is the best method or approach to use? Or I can mix the method and approach, or what? Which is the best? I don't know. I would like to know, because sometimes I try to use the TBL or different activities, or maybe a project, or I don't know, but which will be the best? The best, sorry.
With preschoolers?
No, with elementary, maybe the first and third grade.
Okay, so if you use projects, it will be great. The idea is that, let me show you, methods have changed being um, from being very teacher-centered um, to being student-centered. So if we have here that the teacher controls everything that is done in the lesson, that the teacher prepares all the exercises, etc., that will be teacher-centered. When we have a class that is teacher-centered, we are preparing something that we consider that students would like, right? But what happens? Not all students like the same thing. So that's a reality.
Yes.
That's why we learn in different ways. So those methods that focus on the student, give them more freedom to choose what they want to do. So for example, when we ask them to work on projects, they make decisions, they choose topics, they create groups, they design the way to share information, they research. So they have a lot of the responsibility is on the student, not on the teacher. And it is more effective because they will decide, they will make decisions that are related to what they like. And that is effective when learning. So if you have the opportunity to work with projects, that would be a good decision. If not, there are other methods that are also that promote communication that could be used.
Yeah. On the previous semester, I work with this project-based learning with my students, and for me it was amazing work with this kind of approach, because the whole learning activities are based on the students. They make their effort, they search the information, they research topics and establish all the ways that they are going to follow in order to complete the task and solve the issue that they can handle by learning and discover and researching. They make some PowerPoint presentations, they record some videos. So it was an amazing experience working with this kind of
of approach. I mean,
And what about their accuracy? What did you notice? Do they keep on making mistakes? Because they were
yes,
beginners,
yes.
right?
They make some mistakes about the way they trying to figure the main topic, because the project was about the free time, so I divided because I got 2 grades, 7th and 8th. And for the 7th grade students, I prefer them to work on video games, and for the 8th grade about the extreme sports in Colombia. So for both, I asked them to make PowerPoint presentations, but with the extreme sports, students at first um, figure just the way they research about, for saying something, canoeing. But I said, oh, if you are going to search about this sport, you have to discover the way you are going to expose. You have to solve to your other partners the side that you had of this sport. I mean, I like the canoeing because it's a great experience, and you can go through nature and do this rappel stuff through the river, and they say, oh, we got it. We think that we are going just only to search and expose the theory of this kind of extreme sport. So based on that instruction, they complete the information and change the way that they were going to expose the topic. So the
Okay.
student have
Anyway, they made mistakes, right? Because they are beginners.
yes, yes. And for that reason, I give them the chance to change and complete and research again and give it the space and the time to solve that kind of issues.
Mm-hmm. Good. So when we use, for example, a teacher-centered method or approach to teach with beginners, we will find out that they make mistakes. The same happens with when we use student-centered approaches with or methods with beginners. They also make mistakes. Uh, it seems that we forget the way we talked when we were beginners, and we as teachers try to have our students speak without any mistake when they are starting learning a language, and that's wrong. The normal process is that we make mistakes, the teacher corrects, then we try it again, then the teacher corrects, and so on and so forth. And with the time, the teachers start making less mistakes. So using a teacher-centered approach um, doesn't guarantee that students are going to speak accurately, that they will use grammar appropriately. The same happens with when we use a student-centered approach or method. What happens is that the student-centered approaches methods help the students to develop other important skills like working in groups, like making decisions, like researching, and that helps them to learn, because learning is for not only for one lesson but for forever. So that helps to memorize information easily than when we use those teacher-centered approaches. Okay, we were talking, I don't know if you have questions about this so far.
Yes,
Okay,
teacher, I have a question. So
yes,
sorry.
John.
For this week we have two activities. Yes, the activity number one is a teen activity. Yeah, that's when to try to analyze the different lesson plans and about the three meetings. And after to that, you need to create a some lesson plan. Yeah,
Right.
that's but and this is the final product for you try to apply in a platform. Yeah.
Right.
But there are other individual or it's possible on state bet. I don't know. There are other individual lesson planning that we are presenting for you. This lesson plan is totally different to the first recording class, or is the same.
This lesson plan that you need to write before this coming Sunday is, let me see, it's an individual task, right?
Okay, that's an individual test. Okay,
Yes.
if it's an individual task, this is the same lesson plan the first recording class,
Yes,
because for
exactly. So,
example, for example, in my case, I begin in my practice the last week. Yeah, and I need to have the sequences for the classes, and the first recording of the class is in a September 9th. Yeah, and it's so really difficult. For example, the planning and I presented for you this Sunday. It's the planning for this week, but when I need recording the classes, maybe this at the end of the August, and it is sort of total different. I don't know if there
yes,
is some
I
problem.
understand what you mean.
Yeah.
So, you are going to upload a lesson plan this coming Sunday. I will check it and will give you feedback about the coherence between the coherence of the sequence of the activities that you list there, and also if the activities that you list there and the strategies promote communication. You are not going to video record that lesson because you will start classes on the second week of September. So by the second week of September, the video that I will watch, your video will be about a different lesson that I will expect that you take into account
To
the
a
feedback that I
recommendation basis.
yes, in order to uh, to video record the lesson of a different topic, for example, in your case.
Yeah, but I have another question about the Meteos. For example, the right now the foundation when I would helps because I know work with them. I work with other institutions, but they help on Saturdays, just on Saturdays in this foundation for the degree work. Yeah, for the university. They are on a specific methods for trying to teach English. I can use in a different ones, and I need to use in a PPP. Yes, there is some problem, so I need to design the class in a specific methods that you need to give us some methods. For example, the next class you are planning the class a with a BPL, for example, or the other translated methods, or and it's possible I always I plan it with a PPP because this is a recommendation from my coordinator there.
Okay. Presentation practice production is the sequence that is most used for many teachers.
Yeah.
However, that sequence usually doesn't promote communication
Yes.
because teachers stay on the stage in which students practice with the help of the teacher and drill a structure. So if you don't move to the practice to the production stage and give students the freedom to create something, you won't promote communication. You will promote a drilling. So let's say that presentation practice production is in the middle of communication and drilling. And the idea is that you, at the end of the sequence, give the students the opportunity to create something so they can like communicate a little bit.
But teacher, when you express it all, when you express that to create something, it's just, for example, a dollars on different things. Because when you begin to speak and begin imagining, say, create something is like to
Well,
IBP. But it's such a different. For example, I can explain as a topic. I don't know. For example, music. Yeah, this is my central topic for the class. And after, obviously, I can just leave each one of the steps, the presentation, and after, obviously, some part of the grammar, some part of the reading, I try to improve each one of the skills for the students. That's the most important thing. And this is a practice exercise. And the production, I understand that it's just an work with the students is alone. And you try to doing something to practice and about you need to doing something about the practice. And I have so for example, they say, okay, the production of this time is you try to create or you try to record an audio and you're talking about your favorite band, but you need to
So
use it in a specific steps. That is possible, yeah, because
yes,
when you yes, it is one.
yes,
Okay.
sure. So in that case, students won't create something, but they will give their opinion about the topic that they read or they listened. And if they give their opinion, they are being critical and they are communicating.
Yeah. Okay, perfectly. That's all.
Okay.
Thank
You're welcome.
Excuse me, teacher.
Yes, Flo?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Well, according to John said about the lesson plan for this weekend, I have a little, not problem, a little condition similar to him. Because in this moment, my students of my private classes, both of them, they are studying at the university. And the other one is in 11th grade, but in this moment they are studying English in a different institute. And sometimes maybe on weekends or when they need, I study with them. But in this moment, exactly in this moment, I am not studying with them because they started the university last week. So we start class maybe in 2 weeks, so that the end of August. In this moment, I don't know what is the specific topic that we are going to study. I suppose that I can realize my lesson plan about any topic that I maybe suppose that they need. Maybe if it is the same or not, it is different. But I have to take into account your recommendations about the lesson plan that we are going to upload this week, right?
Yes, that's right. So if let's say that the feedback is about giving the students an exercise so they can give their opinions about, let's say, their favorite music, let's say. So because all the lesson was about their favorites and they focus on music, but there was no any exercise in which they actually could speak. So you will need to take into account that feedback or advice so that in the next lesson or the next lesson plan or the recording, you actually planned an activity in which they can communicate. I understand that the first lesson plan that you will upload, you probably won't be able to video record exactly the same lesson, but I expect that you take into account the
recommendations.
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Any other question?
Yes, teacher, I have a question. It's about the videos.
Yes.
About the length of the duration is the same as the last semester. It has to last around 2 hours.
Yes. Videos need to be about 2 hour lesson. Maybe in some cases, teachers that work in a school, they teach a 45-minute lesson. So what I ask them is to record 2 videos, 2 lessons.
So it could be divided in 2 different sequences. So I mean,
yes, in the case of those teachers who work for schools where they have to teach a 45-minute lesson, they will need to video record 2 different lessons.
Okay, thank you, teacher. Because I had that problem in the last semester. Is the same because one class lasts 45 minutes and there's a class in that time and there's different group and different class in the other time. So I had to join 2 different classes, different topics. So there's no problem about that.
No, but what you need to take into account is that, for example, other students in past semesters, they usually present the topic and practice the topic with the students, and there is no time for them to give students an activity to speak, to produce in a free way.
Yes.
So what teachers that have that case need to take into account is to video record the second part of the lesson with an exercise in which the students are actually practicing the topic in an oral or in a written way, so that there is a production if you are going to use presentation practice production sequence, for example.
Okay. Okay, thank you, teacher. Thank you
So
for
that,
advising.
yes, because so don't forget the communicative activity. That's the idea.
Okay, thank you, teacher. I do that.
Okay. Any
Teacher,
other question? Yes.
I'm so sorry. No, it's possible this is not about a topic. I mean, this is a topic because it's one of the meetings we need okay, you giving us to study for this week. Yes, is and Spanish is B basic, uh, basic learning projects. Basic, yeah, for us, that is the correct name in English. I don't know in Spanish.
Project-based learning.
It's a project-based learning. That's I didn't have a problem. I mean, right now in my school, I try to apply this kind of pedagogy on the Meteus for all the schoolers. Yeah, and I too beginning to design the first class in there. And I have some problems about to the different stations. But for example, when I today have the opportunity to read a document about this kind of Meteus, I don't have some specific questions. I don't know if you try to explain each one of these Meteus in the next class or not. I don't know.
It's okay. We
Because
discuss it
I have
during.
a lot of questions about this kind of Meteus. It's really new. I have two different trainings in one about this last month with international people for the community, but I have is the first time when I need to do that, and I so try to confuse it about some specific steps for try to organize. So I try to planning the activities, I planning the project, the general project, the audit project, and I beginning with a warm up. I mean, I don't know, the warm up is an agora. I don't know it's the correct name. That's like to a warm up, but it's a really longer. But we need to design it with different steps of this Meteus. Also, is really hard. But I don't know if you can explain us after another moment and
No,
specific
that's
steps.
okay. We talk about it right now because one part of the task that you had this week was to watch a video and read about project-based learning. And I'm going to give you an example of a student that I had 2 semesters ago. She applied project-based learning for this course. She was teaching an adult student who lived in Switzerland, so she already had some knowledge of the language. She was not. I mean, she had some vocabulary, but her grammar was needed improvement. So, and she was an artist. So this student from Teacher Practicum 2 used project-based learning, and the project was to ask the student to design a course to teach the basics of arts to an adult. So one part of the project asked the student to visit a museum and to explain the basics of some paintings. Other part of the project asked the student to create a glossary with the main concepts of arts.
A glossary about the concepts.
Yes. So I mean, this was like the name of the project was how to teach arts to a beginner. And to ask that question, the student, the art student, the adult, needed to think about how she would explain everything. And that's why she created the glossary. She visited the museum and she explained some basics about arts. And she also created a web page to upload that information. So one part of sharing the information was the creation of that web page, in which the student used visual aids to explain the glossary, the vocabulary about the basics of arts, and to give some examples of those words related to some paintings. In that project, that student also showed some art made by herself and explained the techniques that she had used. Of course, that is not done in one lesson. Projects could take
Yeah.
many lessons, and if any of you want to use projects for this course, I'm not going to ask you to show in the videos the final result, but I will ask you to explain how the project will be designed or the stages, and to explain uh, what the student actually or the students actually did during the 2-hour lesson that you recorded, and in what part of the project that lesson could be located. So let's suppose that in the case of the student that I was talking about, in the videos I could see the presentation of the web page. I could also see some interviews that the student did to people who visited the museum. So I didn't see the whole process of the project, but some parts of it. And the student explained what part of the project was the one that she recorded, that she video recorded. That's what I would expect from any of you who decide to choose
Yeah.
projects for this course.
Unfortunately, teacher, obviously, this is the new meetings for my school, my job. Yeah, and I can do it the practice in my job because we have some problems with children polite. There are some laws and some really difficult to try to record in my students. I don't have the permission for the principal. For this reason, I need to do it in my practice. But this meets as and my question is, well, for my job, because I some really young things in my mind for try to organize. For example, the first instruction for the trainer was that, okay, you need to create in each one of the lessons, you need to create a basis for try to work with them, for example, and this basis you need to documentary. Okay, the next basis you need to create something, yeah, because obviously one of the proposals of this kind of methods is to try the students create themselves some information that the meaningful information, yeah. And after you, for example, you're reading, after you need to create some I don't know, some about the grammar or some about the writing, and after you need to close. Obviously this is an song one lesson, but the project has, do you know of it, do you say it, you said before there's a different a lot lessons, maybe to have 4, 7, 8 depending on hours, and on the process of the end is, for example, the first project I'm talking about the music, but the music and my question was that does the music influence about the society or the society influencing the music? And the agora, the warm-up for this one is about 10 hours. It's explaining strong important moments of history, yeah, and explaining the moments of history. For example, the second word, one word, yeah, and after listening a specific song in this moment of the history, yeah, and try to the students beginning to identify if there wasn't some problems or the lyrics some influence about this moment, the historical moment, yeah. And after try to explain us some Latin American situations, yeah, and I can explain us. And tomorrow I have beginning to go documentary for try to explain us a topic, and the purpose is beginning their some research and try to organize its own projects for each one of these. But I don't know, I also have maybe have a wrong mistakes in a process. So it's very difficult for this reason. My question.
No, I mean, project-based learning is not a method because it doesn't tell you what are the stages, exactly the stages. It's an approach because it tells you what you need to promote to have students learn and for teachers to teach. So that's why you won't find any document that tells you the stage 1 is this, stage 2 is this, stage 3 is this. some recommendations, because projects are developed with the needs of the students. If they don't have any knowledge about the history of music, they will need some time to research about it. If they don't have a specific lyric, so they will need some time to find it and to discuss it in groups. So what teachers do is to plan a possible time to have students finish the project, but the development of it depends on the student's knowledge, previous knowledge, and also how difficult the question is for the students to answer. Your question is, does the music or how music influences, how music influence people? Is that
No,
the
society. That's the music influencing the society, or society influencing the music?
Okay. So
that's an easy question. That's
depending,
maybe that's.
well, it depends on the level of the students, the
Yeah,
level, I
it's
mean, how much English they know,
a
the
lot.
age of the
This is 10th
students.
grade. Yeah,
So
this
for example,
maybe my student was in age is 15, 16, 17 years old, and it's in a 10th grade of school, and the level then is maybe that B1, B1 plus, more
so
or less.
that's a good question for them. No, that project cannot be used with preschoolers, for example.
Yeah, no, that's
right?
that's a really hard, of course.
So, for example, if I'm not wrong, I uploaded a video in the task that you had this week about a project for preschoolers, which was to create a chair for their favorite toy. And in order to do that, they had to manage some concepts of centimeters and meters to and some basic vocabulary. So depending on the student's age and the knowledge of language, taking into account that, we need to choose a good question, or actually we can have students choose a question that they want to answer, that they want to research. That is like that is also on the let's say on that line that we have from being guiding students and guiding them and giving them information, or letting them make a lot of decisions. So projects could be very student-centered, so that they choose the topic they want to research, or the question they want to answer, or we can guide them a little more by having the teacher write the question for them and prepare a little bit more and be more like to prepare more for them, which would be like the recommendation if you are just starting working with projects with students.
Okay, teacher, thanks so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, what about project-based learning? You had some information in the task for this week about it. Do you have other questions about that method, or some information that you want to remind in this encounter about that? Any of you? Or does any of you have worked with project-based learning in the places where you work?
I'm actually working with project-based learning, not myself, but I am helping in the academic council for a project that is for the Secretary of Education of Barranquilla, and we're working with 20 schools. We're trying to use the suggested curriculum for English. It was designed by the North University here, and I had the opportunity to receive training on what they actually think this project-based learning thing is. According to the what we're doing is actually because of the previous explanation and training we received. They say that project-based learning is basically is like a bunch of task-based activities that you compile in order to reach a solution for a problem that you present to a group of students. And basically, what we're doing, for example, we're working in two different like themes. One is for environment, and the other one is for we're trying to work in this like peace and living in peace among the schools. So the questions that we're posing on the different schools depends on the cognitive level of the students. For example, those in third grader, they're trying to acknowledge their bodies and like subjects of rights, and the ones fifth graders are trying to promote on others behaviors in order to live in peace, to have a good behavior, to take care of the environment. In the end, when we present the problem to the students, well, there's a big problem that all these 20 teachers had, is the fact on how to get the input for the students in order to use English as they work on a project. For example, the students of the fifth graders from one school, they decided that they wanted to do a campaign, and the final product will be a video where they explain the community in the neighborhood where they live in, what are the like proper behaviors in order to live in peace. So they come up with a lot of good ideas. They started working together. They created teams. Teams are proposing different solutions. They get their names. They design, shirts with the names of the teams and all that. And the teachers, in every single lesson, as they work, the first thing that they did was like try to discover what were the problems, and allow the students to do that and provide vocabulary when the students came up with the answers to the question. And they stopped like for a second to provide vocabulary in English and help them use the vocabulary. So the next day they design like advertisement they wanted to post all around the school for everybody to know. That they revised the impact of the advertisement they posted all around the schools. If they noticed that people were reading the advertisements or not, then they came back to the classroom and they try to present the information. So in the end, what we're trying to do is they need to create a solution and leave a product for the community where they live in, and for the school where they're studying in, using English, and well, there were obviously some Spanish for those who don't speak English yet, uh, around a problem that is common to the students and is related to real life problems. So we're not like having them think a lot on stuff that that sounds like they're imagining too much, but the actual problems that they're living in. And it seems to work, but we're having a problem with the students using English, and how teachers of English are providing enough input for students in order to work on the projects and not forget that they're learning English, because they tend to, they get too accelerated, excited about the project and the solution and all that stuff, and they tend to use a lot of Spanish. I like it a lot because I believe that the students are using a lot of cognitive skills, but at the same time, in my opinion, it's very challenging for English teachers to use project-based learning, because if you don't know how to use it properly, you will end up having a lesson where students want to use a lot of Spanish and not focus on language.
Okay, so thank you a lot for the experience that you just told us, because that is exactly what happens when we work with projects. We cannot expect students to speak in English all the time, because they know that they have classmates who understand Spanish, so they will use the first language for solving the problems that they find difficult to express in English. So as you mentioned, other important skills are developed, because they are exposed to trying to solve a problem, which is something that everybody needs to do every day in different levels. So the problems, the difficulty of the problems is uh, is different every day, let's say. But it's something that we need to learn how to do. Not to let the teacher always solve the problem and tell us what we have to do, but have students solve problems so they develop that skill. they work in groups, so they start developing the skill of how to work in groups, how to deal with differences, and how to come to or to get in to agree with others about something. So that's also an important skill. Researching is also important, and they learn to do that. Probably what teachers need to do during projects is to help the students find resources, audio or or readings that are for their level. So if they are, let's say, B1, so help the students to choose the readings or the audio files that fit their level. That in the case of environment, there are a lot of material for different levels about that topic. So if students start reading something very complex, they will get demotivated, or they will start translating, or they would start using more their Spanish. Something different will happen if the source they have, the reading they have, the reading they use to get informed is good for their level. So they will have like the challenge enough to read it in English and to try to summarize it by using English. But there is no way to avoid Spanish because they are sharing with classmates that speak Spanish, so they will try to use Spanish. Teachers need like to keep on telling the students that they need to practice English and they need to try to use it, and to give them like strategies. For example, use the dictionary or ask the teacher when they don't know a word, or ask the teacher if what they chose is okay for them to read, etc. But there is not a way to avoid at all the Spanish. But there are strategies like try to reduce or help the students reduce that amount of Spanish they use.
Yeah, the pedagogical group of the Secretary of Education, that there's like a team of people there. Then we have meetings so all Fridays, every Friday, and some of them are calling this the input problem, because they consider that there is a serious problem with like providing input for students so that when they're working on the projects, they're actually using English. This only occurs with those students at the lower level. Obviously, those who, they already speak something, they tend to use English pretty much more than those who are at the basic levels. One of the solutions that we're testing at the time is code switching for those who are at the lowest levels. So they're like provide explanation and vocabulary in English, and immediately they translate to Spanish. We're seeing how it works. But yeah, I'm open to listen to any suggestions, recommendations, or whatever, because it's something what we're trying to work out before the month finishes. Thank you.
If you tell students that they can code switch to help the others in the group to get the word in English or to use more English, that's gonna be positive, right? So they will code switch just with the aim of helping the others. If they are mingle in a way that in the same group there are students who have a good level and others that have some problems with the language. So those who know more will help the others that need information about new vocabulary or grammar to improve. So
yeah,
it's what happens. Yes, probably they are using a lot of Spanish, but then the team needs to start using the strategies to reduce that amount of Spanish that students are using. But for sure, they won't use English 100% because of the context where they are.
Yeah, and we're testing at 2 schools with language chunks. We're not trying like to focus a lot on explaining even vocabulary, but just giving like the chunk of language that they will need in order to communicate with the teams as they are. It's like, some kind of directions they need in order to work in teams. So we're seeing how it works. But yeah, it's really interesting, and I like it a lot because they really get involved into the project thing, and they like, oh yeah, it's not a traditional English class anymore. We're working on something. Students really love it, so
Yes, it's
it's a great
motivating.
approach.
It's motivating because they have the power to do many things. They have they make decisions and they create. They talk among them and find out the best way to solve the question, or they start actually thinking on how to solve the problem. So it's not the teacher talking all the time, but it's the students acting to to talk about something they like. So the topic needs to be very appealing for them. Okay, thank you, Giancarlo. Arley wrote, it is similar to task-based learning. What I understand is that in PBL, the language is used as a way to get the goals of the project, but in task-based learning, the task but in task-based learning, the task is developed based on what they learned about language. So task-based learning is it could be the sequence of task-based learning uh, could be met in 2 hour lessons in a 2 hour lesson because I uploaded a sequence of 6 steps and the task is not complex, but it needs also to fit the student's knowledge and age. For example, a task could be to order food in a restaurant, and the final exercise for students could be to role play that situation. So that objective could be met in a 2 hour lesson. While in project-based learning, the question that needs to be solved is more complex and requires research and requires the students to work in groups to solve the question and requires other stages that will take more than 2 hours. So those of you who want to work with task-based learning, you will find in the first task a PDF file with the Book of Noonan and the exact page where there are the 6 stages that could be taken into account in order to create a lesson plan based on task-based learning. I'm going to read the other comments here. It says, that's why working in groups help a lot and role plays are great for that. Okay, so today we move from grammar translation, which is very old, to PBL, which is on the other side. That is very student-centered and develops many high-order thinking skills, like making decisions, like giving opinions, like being creative, or working in groups, which are like the skills that should be promoted in all lessons, no matter what subject is taught. Okay, I would like to listen to any of you if you have questions about PBL, project-based learning, or if you have any information that you read that you would like to say about PBL, or if you don't have any question about PBL or probably about the other methods, the methods that that were included in the first task. So that's okay if you ask.
No, teacher, for me, working on this kind of approach was an amazing experience. I mean, the project one, but the truth is that in this moment I'm worried about the recordings because from the previous semester I suffered too much with this, about the time, about the schedule, the issues that I got in my job, so all that kind of things.
Okay, well, but I wrote here that 3 of you have need more time to upload the first video.
Yes.
So that's okay. I will give you more days to upload the first video.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
Those of you who choose project-based will find it a new thing because not many teachers work with that, and is an experience in which you will learn with the students. But it would be great if you can try for this course that approach. If you don't want to use that approach, and if you are a new teacher, if you don't have experience teaching, I advise you to use TBL, that is task-based learning. Why? Because
I would like to continue with this approach.
so
I
it would
mean,
be great if
the
you can.
previous in the last semester, I work on this, but I only record the last video using this because in our school the projects can be developed till the end of the term. So for this new year, I will try to start working at the beginning of the term to make those activities.
Yeah, it will be great if you can use it this semester too. Okay, so finally, what I will say, the suggestion for those teachers who will be teaching for the first time is to use TBL because that is a method. So it tells you what needs to be the first stage, the second, the third, etc. There are 6 stages in this method. So for example, it tells you that the first stage you need to present the language in context. Let's say, for example, that you are teaching high school students, and the topic in the book is likes and dislikes. So to present the language in context, students will read a short paragraph of a person that talks about his likes and dislikes in relation to hobbies. So presenting in context means to show students either a conversation or a written text that is close to reality. So as you see in this TBL, the teacher doesn't start explaining the vocabulary that gives the student the the real uh, the real or or close to authentic reading or conversation, so the students make inferences. So TBL and those communicative approaches and methods are based on thinking that students can make inferences and that not everything needs to be explained by teachers. So for TBL and the Noonan sequence, that will be the first stage. The second stage will be a control practice, which means that if we are teaching beginners, we need to help them practice how to pronounce the sentences that they read or the sentences that they listened in a conversation. The third stage would be to have students listen to more examples or read more examples similar to the ones that were presented in the first stage. If in the first stage students read a short paragraph about likes and dislikes regarding hobbies, on the third stage they will have more short paragraphs about the same topic, but they will have to do some exercises like matching, like filling the gaps, or other exercises that help them to practice or understand the vocabulary in those examples. In the fourth stage, students will practice the grammar. So the teacher will choose some examples of sentences that were presented in the conversations or in the paragraphs, and will write them on the board, and will ask students to try to create new ones or try to find out what is the structure of the sentence. So everything will be about having students think, analyze, and not explain. The explanation will be like the last resource for communicative approaches or methods. The fifth stage in this method, in TBL, is to have students practice, for example, the conversation by reading it aloud or by changing some words. In the example that I gave you, if students are given a paragraph about likes and dislikes in relation to hobbies, students will need to change, for example, the hobbies written for the ones for the ones that fit the reality. So if the reading says, I really like going hiking on weekends, and the student that is reading that doesn't do that, so he will change that by, I really like playing soccer on weekends, right? So the stage 5 will be like to change some words from the examples given, or to rehearse orally a conversation that was presented at the beginning or in the previous stages. And the sixth stage would be to have students try to create their own paragraph or have to create their own conversation. If they are beginners, they will don't make a lot of changes from the example given, but they will have some opportunity like to uh, try to be creative and to use the words that were studied along the lesson. So as I told you, this is the recommended or the method that I recommend for those of you who will be teaching for the first time, because it has a clear sequence that will help you to try and find out if it works and how it works, and if it really gives the students like some scaffolding for those students that are beginners. And those of you who have experience teaching, you can choose any method, any approach that promotes communication. Or if you want to mix methods that promotes communication during the lesson, it's okay. I'm going to read the comments that you wrote here. It says, Giancarlo wrote, I would ask an extension in the submission date for the second activity if possible, because this week is thought for some of us who also have co-terminal work. You mean Giancarlo, do you mean the activity that is due on this coming Sunday?
Yes, teacher. The thing is, well, it might sound a little bit, too early for us to be asking for this, but some of us are working on coterminal subject, and they are requesting for us to do something that requires a lot of work. So I was asking, since this Monday is a holiday, if it would be possible, like, to grant us an extension for the second activity, because some of us who have coterminal, we have to do the coterminal activity, do the activity for applied linguistics too, and these two other things, the one while working in groups and preparing the lesson. So
Okay, I
it's
will extend the deadline for
so it's like
Tuesday,
four
right?
activities, and two of them are like
I will extend it for,
that'll be awesome. I would appreciate it, and I'm sure all those students will appreciate it too.
okay, I will extend it for Tuesday, but my recommendation is that those of you who don't have that coterminal work, please try to finish it by Sunday or Monday, because then I will, on Monday, I will make available the task for next week, so that you have also time to work on the other task. But I will extend the time, the deadline for Tuesday for all of you. And again, the recommendation is that the ones who can do it by Sunday, please do it by Sunday.
I'm sure all of us will try, but if we need the time, in my case, I think I'll need to use it because I'll be working Saturday all day long. So I'll just start like preparing the task that I have to deliver just Sunday, and maybe I'll be using Monday.
Okay, Giancarlo. Then Arley asks if this presentation will be available. This encounter is being recorded, and these stages that I just showed you are, yeah, those stages are in the task that is due this coming Sunday. It's a PDF file, and it has exactly the name, the number of the page where the stages are. Well, anyway, I can also upload this short presentation to the virtual room. I will do that. Liliana asked if Tuesday. Yes, it will be Tuesday, the deadline.
Teacher?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. To finally, in my case, any of the 5 methods can be adapted to preschool children, or one of these is recommended or suggest?
Okay, for preschool children, they learn by playing and by singing. So the advice is, for example, if the topic is um, colors, and let's say, um, usually what we do in preschool is to help students learn vocabulary. So if the topic is colors and let's say clothes,
Shapes. Okay.
so you will need to look for a chant or a song about that, and help them sing it many times, and help them, for example, work on games like changing the clothes of a doll, which is on the board. Um,
For example, this the method is audiolingual. Is possible?
with them is more audiolingual, yes. If they are beginners and if they are learning just vocabulary. In some schools
Yes.
that are bilingual, I will say bilingual, but they are immersion schools. What they do is to work with projects. So they don't expect students to tell you like the word for one thing that you are showing, but they expect students not to speak, but to follow directions and work on hands-on activities. That's what they do on those immersion schools.
Okay, teacher. Thank you.
So it seems that the school where you work is not immersion, but I guess they study 2 hours of English or 1 hour of English every week. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So if you have the freedom to choose the method or approach you want to use in your classes, Sandra, you could start using projects with them, and you won't require them or ask them to produce something orally in English, but you will have them follow instructions to do hands-on activities.
Okay.
And you need to use a lot of visual aids because they need to see how, I mean, what you are talking about. So you need to show them, since you will be talking in English all the time, you need to show them what you're talking about. If it's a story, or if you use flashcards, if you use a video, or if you show them how to do something, you need to use visual aids a lot.
Yes. Thank you, teacher.
You are welcome. Any other question before we finish?
Teacher, in this moment I don't have question. Maybe if I have any doubt, I'm gonna, can I write your mail, right?
Yes, you can email me. Yes, no problem. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you a lot for your time, for your participation, for listening. Email me if you have questions or prepare questions for the next encounter. I'm planning to work on an exercise about a sequence that promotes communication for next encounter. But if you have questions about the task or something, prepare the questions and we can discuss about it next week, okay? Thank you, all of you, and see you next week.
Okay, teacher, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good evening, everyone. Have a good night.